What is up, Overwatch community? Welcome back to another episode of Watchpoint. My name is Trips. We have a lot to talk about this week, a little bit of a patch drop, but before we get into that, I want to welcome back once again Yiska to the show.
Hey.
And Vulcha, our lovely editor.
Hello.
So before that goes in, I missed this. I believe I've missed this the last 2 weeks. One of the biggest things is that on YouTube, you should be seeing rolling footage from either Yiska's games or Vulcha's games. I don't know if we've had too many submissions yet, but if you would like, feel free to record some of your games, not just the play of the games, but the full game, like a nice 10, 15-minute game, and we'll run it in our background here. Send it to watchpointtv@gmail.com, and try your best to have it the best quality, just so it doesn't look super grainy. Other than that, we pretty much would post anything that somebody sends. And now to get into the patch notes, they are a little bit light this week. Just a few, changes that everyone's been complaining about. First off is McCree, of course. Everyone thinks it's called Fan the Hammer. I was honestly a little bit confused when I read the patch notes. But it's called Peacekeeper. It's his alternate fire. What they did was they decreased the recovery time. So instead of waiting 3/4 of a second to reload, he now reloads faster, which is 1/3 of a second. Roughly, but each bullet does 45 damage instead of 70 damage. So I don't know if you guys have played as McCree or played against McCrees. I don't know if anyone is even still playing McCree, but have you noticed less of a problem?
Well, he can kill one tank now instead of 2 tanks. I don't know. I guess it's a good change. He can't outright kill a tank with it. It doesn't seem. But he gets pretty damn close on most tanks.
He's still he's not a problem, but
he's still super
strong.
Beast. Yeah, he's still a super beast.
Especially because they. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but especially because they decreased the reload time too.
Yeah. I think that was necessary, or otherwise he would have been D tier or something.
Yeah.
Honestly, right now he's probably still useful. A couple of things, like he surely got less reliable. Like, for instance, a thing I loved to do was throw my flashbang before someone peeked the corner. So there was basically no way for them to, for instance, a soldier get the jump on me and then just blast me with a grenade because of the netcode, because there's still some peak advantage, right? But right now, it's like you flashbang and then you really have to control sort of the fire. Obviously, and the thing is, what you used to be able before is like, okay, you're shooting at someone, and then your attention gets drawn to another higher priority target. So you have 4 shots left in your gun, and then you fan into him, and you would still kill him if he was like a low health target. This basically doesn't work anymore, right? Yeah. Then also one thing that was seriously nerfed is pros actually started being able to really control the fans. They were fanning basically almost long range at this point. They were really it's like they really there is some pattern to it, especially if you're strafe moving. I guess I will put this video in the references. I saw it in Planet Overwatch, where basically there is some way to control the hammer, so you can even do it on medium range, which, there was some skill to it, but
oh, definitely. I just can't imagine, not sniping, but like let's say like a bus length, like that far away, just being able to fan the hammer and somebody's dead, like a tank is dead.
What did they do? This is the first I've heard of this. What did they do? Was it just strafe left and right, just jiggle left and right to control it like in other games, or reduce the recoil?
Well, you can pull down, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also... It's hard to explain. It's better the way they explain it. It's basically they shoot along a line, and they there's sort of a predictability in how it spreads. Not really like in CS, we have a straight spray pattern, but it's like, for instance, if you track someone, it's a very straight line you can draw, actually. Like, not perfectly straight, but reasonably straight. And considering you're not even you can't headshot with Fan the Hammer, there's no much reason to be super accurate with it. So that worked quite well, I thought. But now it's obviously nerfed in that sense, and I think in it's kind of excessive that people also started fanning longer mid-range, I guess, and I kind of welcome the left clicks again.
Yeah,
I've even experimented a little bit with flashbang into one left click to the head and then fanning. If that's superior, I don't know. I guess I will see what the pros do on the weekend if he's played, which I still very much expect if they keep playing one hero limit, which I think they do.
Yeah,
and
I think the bullet damage honestly just helped it from being like a noob friend, where noobs could just run up flashbang and right click and people were just dead because they just hit 1 to 2 bullets, 3 bullets, something like that, and they just killed, like a Lucio or something like that. Not even the tanks, but just the noob friendly right click or E right click, someone's dead. Like, that was a little bit too much, but
yeah.
I honestly was not, I'll be honest, I was not as good as some people were with Widow, so her change didn't affect me too much. But Widow's Kiss, the scoped shot, the base damage was decreased from 15 to 12, and the scope shot damage multiplier was unchanged, but the headshot multiplier was plussed by another 0.5 damage. So it was 2 times the amount of damage for a headshot. Now it's 2.5 times. But players must now wait for unscoping animation to completely finish before scoping. So it cut out, I guess there was like this weird, you could move while continuously unscoping and scoping to hold your percentage of charge.
Okay.
That was part of it. Yeah.
I didn't even realize that was a thing, but I guess the pros were doing it, or people who play Widowmaker, like it's their job, were doing it. And now that I know that it's a thing, in hindsight, that was a little bit ridiculous.
True, yeah. But I think there would have been other ways to, fix that issue, other than making the scope animation very clunky.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I guess that's true. Because it's like in CS where you can switch off weapons and scope again.
Yeah.
But obviously the CS animation's a lot faster.
I think in a general sense, not that long ago, I guess a year or something, they nerfed the AWP speed in CS, so you couldn't run as fast anymore in scope. And back then I was also not really convinced that this was a good change, because it makes it simply less fun to play. Even if the absolute balance is restored because of that, it's like there would have probably been other things you could have changed about Widowmaker that would have made her less powerful, which this nerf obviously does, while maintaining the fun in playing her, I guess. And now, maybe it's a transition from her old playstyle to the new one, but it really feels so sluggish playing her now. And the old playstyle was very much dynamic, and they could have hit her in many other ways, but decided to go with the clunky scope in. And especially the movement thing, the restriction, I don't know, I'm not too big of a fan of the new change, I guess.
Do you think good players are gonna not scope out at all anymore and pretty much stay scoped in at this point because of the changes?
I guess you have to. What are you going to do instead, right? Good players. The thing is, the skill set very much moved. When before, it was a little bit ridiculous. Like players like Taimu or something, they were basically scoping close range, right? They were where other people would take their SMG, they was simply scope in, scope out, and jump around and mid-air headshot you or something. That was obviously, and it is only going to get worse based on that as the better the player base gets, because there's still this idea that in a year's time, a lot of people will reach the level that pro players are right now, or maybe in 2 years, whatever, right? So eventually this will always become a more public issue, and you have to kind of balance it based on that. But I mean, the community was quite clear in their annoyance of Widowmaker, and it's something needs to be done. There's no argument about that. I just question, was that the most fun thing to go about it?
This might be a bit terrible to say, but I'm kind of glad that the changes make Widowmaker less fun. I'm sick of Widowmaker everywhere. I don't know. It's a bit selfish and not for the health of the team, but yeah.
Yeah, it's always good to mix it up, I guess, sometimes. The only other thing that was changed, just because I'm going to mention it because it was in the patch notes, was ultimate charge cost increased by 10%. I don't know if infrared was that big of a problem, I guess.
Well, it was always up, well, not always up, but it was up. When it was up, it gave 100% knowledge of where the enemy was at all times. And that's pretty damn powerful, I think. Yeah. And if it's up like 65, 70% of the time, that's a pretty big. That's pretty big.
I just don't think that. Okay, don't get me wrong. Seeing through walls is a very, very powerful thing, but it's not like a gravity lapse or something like that that's gonna kill the whole team. It's just information.
Well,
like, it is very strong, but it's not something that you use and the whole team's just dead. You know what I mean?
I guess I would argue it's pretty close to as deadly, because you can get people peeking around corners. You know, you just kill them before they even come around the corner. You can set up for stuff and then jump people knowing exactly how many enemies are around there. So, in my opinion, it's kind of like a little bit like Zarya's ult. Like, Zarya's ult isn't going to kill anybody on its own, but it's great for setup. That's kind of how I feel about the Widowmaker ult.
I think Widowmaker ults, in general, if you compare them to, let's say, other offensive ultimates...
Like a Death Blossom?
Like a Death... maybe not a Death Blossom, because Death Blossom is quite reliable. Let's say maybe a Pharah ultimate or something.
Okay.
Like, I would think Widowmaker caused more death than the average... Like, the average Widowmaker ult would cause more death than a Pharah ult or a Soldier ult, even. Simply because, like, first I looked at the patch notes and I kind of looked at, okay, 10%, and that really doesn't seem that impactful. But obviously with the new mechanic of how Widow plays, like, before she could just freakishly fast peek the corner, just pick one off with a headshot, and because she didn't really need that much charge to kill someone, right? 75% was all you needed for the majority of the cast. So it's like, that really... It was almost like, okay, a Widow had her ultimate. Now, if the opponent's Widow had her ultimate up at the same time, okay, they might not kill each other. Otherwise, it's pretty much 100% kill unless she hides for the entire duration. And then she can just rain havoc on the team. It's almost like, if you're playing a godlike Widow, it's almost like creating as much space or area denial as a McCree ult would, right? Yeah. Because... I don't know, like a Temu, if he sees your Mercy coming around the corner and knows she's in a certain angle behind a Reinhardt, he will just leap up with a grappling hook and get him from above or something, right?
And he'll know if he's safe or not in the process too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then that is obviously not only about the Widow, who's obviously probably the character that benefits the most from her own ultimates, simply because of her shooting mechanics. But that is also true for the rest of her teammates, right? Like, being able to know that someone is around the corner, or in which way or how many. I guess there is sound, but still, it's a much different story to know where they're approaching from, how you set up, and yeah, it was. At first, I thought, okay, 10% might be too little. It still might be. But with the added nerf to the mechanics from Widowmaker, I think it might be okay.
I'm hoping the damage change helps to lower the charge rate a little bit, you know. At least in a
Yeah.
pub setting, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. The only other, it was pretty small of a patch just between those two characters, but the only other bug fixes that they did were a couple of positions that Reaper could shadow step to in certain maps, like Hanamura, and they fixed some Dorado collision. And I don't know, but I think that should cover. There was a couple places where Symmetra could put turrets that nobody could see, but they could damage you through it.
There's still
This-
spots that you can do that.
Is there still spots?
Like on Hollywood, you can put it in bushes, and you're never gonna see it. And the bushes are attacking you, basically.
Oh, but I meant like through the like
Oh,
world,
through the floor,
like
yeah.
through the floor.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That's stupid. Yeah.
Okay. So
There's one other change that was our favorite thing to do in my pub, which is if a Mercy damage boosted a Reinhardt and he was hitting a Mei wall, she would get 15% ult charge, basically
Really?
per hit. And they took that away with that patch, I think, too.
yeah, they did. I didn't mention it, but that was on the patch notes.
It was so stupid, man. It's like
I didn't even experience it or notice it, I guess.
It worked on shields too, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, so if you're a Junkrat and you want to spam a shield down, I mean, the Mercy's gonna have a lot of ult from that. No.
I mean, the thing is, it's not that big of a problem. It would have been a bigger problem if it was any other character than Mercy, but it's like her ult is always up anyway, so.
Did you guys see, this is not something that I put in the show notes, but something that I saw on the subreddit was there's a hole in Reinhardt's shield if he's at the right angle that you can damage him through. It was
I
on the
saw that.
subreddit.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Another bug fix that obviously should be taken care of next patch. But there was a giant post on the forums, the BattleNet forums. Jeff Kaplan posted just talking about what their direction for the game is. And he said things like that they actually have probably not specific, like all out plans, but they have plans set already into early 2017. Like they are set up to what they want to release, what characters that they have maybe on, the back burners a little bit. They're still working out, but they have goals and stuff like that they want to hit by certain points. So it's not just all up in the air and they'll release things when they, feel like it or when they're done. They have milestones that they want to hit. Their biggest focus right now is on competitive play, obviously, because they had it and then they took it out before open beta. So a lot of the people in open beta were like, oh, where's competitive, stuff like that. And they even were talking about having public test realms and play testing some of the competitive stuff that they have out. And they did say that, what they're working on right now for competitive play may not be where it ends up. This is what they feel is strongest, but it could go through a couple iterations in preseason, season 1 and 2.
Yeah, and that's basically like all we ask from the developer, right? Like the League of Legends community, there was a lot of crying about the dynamic queue, and I think it's not even that they implemented such a system, but that their developers seem so hesitant to listen to player feedback and not act upon it, and that's basically not the signal we are getting from Blizzard, right?
Yeah, no, WoW had that syndrome for a while where Blizzard basically got fed up with what players thought and were just like, you think you do, but you don't. Like, this is what we feel is the strongest for the game. We don't care what you think. You're just the what's the word for it? The vocal minority. Most of the other players are fine with it, but the people who are complaining are just there to complain. And they didn't realize that a lot of people are having problems with their game and you should probably listen. But I like that. I mean, even Jeff Kaplan said that they're being very, very open. Like, the Overwatch team itself is very transparent. Obviously not 100%, but ever since the beginning, this team has put in a lot of work, even like the net coding people coming up and making videos and talking to the community, trying to get everybody on their side. And it's nice. And I believe, I don't know if it was in this post, but I do remember now that I'm talking about it, hearing them say that they really want to keep this transparency, and they don't want people to, if they don't like something, explode. If you don't like something, make a post on the forums, on Reddit, because obviously they do pay attention to Reddit a bit. But, go about it in a logical sense. Go about it in a analytical sense, because they want to keep this open, forum talking between the developers, and they don't want the community to blow up in their faces and them have to shut their doors.
There's something interesting that occurred to me while reading this, as well as other posts of his, and some of it's a little bit reminiscent of like Peter Molyneux type discussion, where he would go in depth about what he wants to accomplish with the game. The difference here is they're delivering, I guess, as opposed to Peter Molyneux, but there's a danger there that I guess Jeff seems aware of, evident from like his post itself. He was saying, I'm really hesitant to over promise. I don't want to disappoint. Like he kept iterating that. So that's the danger, and I'm glad to see that he's aware of that danger, like inherently, of over promising and pissing off a community. Because nothing makes a gamer more angry than having like a treat told to you what this treat is, and it's amazing. It's a chocolate covered gummy bear, and then like 3 years later you don't get that gummy bear. Like what the fuck?
That sounds gross, by the way. Chocolate and gummy bear does not go together.
They do. They go together.
Yeah. At the very end, I just wanted to bring it up because I'm reading it right now. He says, "I cannot stress this enough. Some of this stuff might not happen."
Yeah. I really hope the community listens to that. Community at large. It makes me worried because the netcode, I guess, video kind of fell on a lot of deaf ears once the game went into open. It was open. The community didn't get it. They didn't understand tick rate and why dying behind walls has nothing to do with tick rate. It was like that video didn't matter. So I'm worried that these sort of posts might go sideways.
Yeah. But you were saying, Yiska?
The thing is, what you need to realize is, like, being a developer is... Okay, we got our forums, and there's an obvious, you could call it cycle jerk or hive mind or whatever, like public opinion forming within these ecosystems that all feed on each other, right? And then there come these ideas, basically, that they feel very strongly about. Now, being a developer, what we heard, like, they're developing content that's coming out next year. They're basically working on a completely different experience that we are currently having. They were saying, like, when the game launched, it was like for the developer team, it was like, oh yeah, that the game launched. Oh yeah, but we're still doing something completely different. That's not on our radar. That's what a thing these marketing guys do or something, right? Yeah. Well, at the same time, then you get player feedback. You get feedback from maybe data you have, obviously, that we don't have as a community, right? For instance, we could feel very strongly about a certain character being overpowered while having an abysmally low win rate in actual statistics, right? Then there's always, sort of like the wife that wakes you up in the morning, goes like, "John, go make a career and money," which is basically your sales department. Yeah. And so you have all these inputs, and we're just sitting there typing away in our forum, demanding justice, and while not being aware of all the factors that these developers are constantly, confronted with. And sometimes you really lose that while thinking about these things when suggesting, and especially in which emotional state you're suggesting these obvious changes, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think overall, the real problem is when a developer really tells you in your face you're wrong for feeling that way, right? Invalidating your feelings, or not even feelings, but your opinion about a certain subject, and saying, yeah, well, you don't really matter that much. And then if the numbers then go down, well, it's your fault, right? Yeah. It's basically, you can't tell someone, it's the same thing that happened with Diablo 3, where the guy went like, yeah, well, what do you know, loser? Well, to the foreign Diablo 2 developer, and in the end, they really, reassembled the game, and now everyone seems to agree that it's a better experience. So, in general, like just don't be ignorant of your audience, I guess is what I'm saying.
Some of the other stuff that was mentioned in the post were maps. They have one map. They said that they are prototyping, and it is officially in the pipeline, we'll say, in quotes. Obviously, take everything with a grain of salt. Once again, I'm just stressing it. But they said that they have it in development. It should or could appear on a playtest soon. And they also talked about a different map. I don't know if they're referring to the same map, but they said that they tested out a long-range map, a more open map. The only problem that they said was that Reaper is basically useless. You know, that Widowmaker and Hanzo, a lot of the long-range characters, had a lot of fun playing on it, but they would make their short-range characters extremely useless. So that they said that is basically going back to the drawing board. Heroes are being worked on daily, and that they said that they wish they had dates that they could give us, but they said that they would change them and that we would end up getting mad at them because they would be pushed back, so they're just not going to do it. They just can't for their own, basically, sanity.
Or the next character just needs to be a trebuchet that launches short-range characters into the opponent.
A lot of things... like what's really popular in a lot of the like MOBA games now is teleportation characters. I think and maybe I'm like now is like 3 or 4 months ago, but a lot of I think it started off in Smite. It was like Joannis or Jandis or something, and it's like he creates a portal through a wall and they just like go through the entire terrain. And then they did that in League and they have that in Dota. I don't know.
I'm kind of bummed to hear them say that they scrapped a map that had specific like long range type qualities. It'd be kind of neat to have a map every once in a while that really breaks up combat, like a really, really close range type hallway map, something like that, or a very long hallway. It'd be neat, I think, in my opinion, just to throw a few in here and there. Give us something different to play with.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't do something where it's like, even like, let's say it's like payload. You have to push a payload through part of the map that's super open, but there's hallways on the sides that close range characters can, skirmish in. But like where the payload is, the tanky long range characters on the payload, they have to just deal with barrages from the other team of, 3 Widowmakers, something, because you're going to get that anyways in pubs. But like an opener map, but on the side they have short range accessibility. So it's kind of good for both. It's just the short range characters wouldn't be near the payload.
Sounds like Hollywood a little bit.
It's a little bit, yeah, but like a little bit more open, I guess. Like on the payload end, like a little bit more wider out.
It'd just be cool to have a map where, like, I don't know, Reaper isn't viable, or Monkey isn't viable, just something like that.
Hey, don't you touch my Monkey, man. I'm top 8,000 Winston.
That's You could understand it in a different way, but okay. No, but I think if anything, we actually you could argue that.
Wait, can I pause? Can I pause for a second? Were you gonna make a sexual joke?
I mean, if you don't want to touch my monkey, that's okay. But
anyways, I just had to call that out.
No, but I feel like the King of the Hill maps those are sort of like the close range maps, right? Like Nepal and Li Zhang. It's like, okay, this is where characters like Reaper are actually viable most of the time, right? But in payload maps, it gets a little harder, right? And then that's also, then again, for instance, on some maps, for instance, Nepal maps, there's basically no reason to pick a Pharah because everything is so close ranged. And like the one map where the point is like encased by these walls that you can look through. What's a Pharah going to do there, right? So I don't know but if anything, I would love to see payload maps where close range characters shine more, because I don't feel like that is really happening that much, right? And especially now that close range isn't just won by McCree, that could potentially become very interesting. Like a spot where, for instance, a May could start to shine, or a Roadhog or something, right? So, yeah.
Like I actually just made me think of, I really just want like an elevator payload, like how they had in TF2, where you get the payload to like a platform, the platform raises and it goes through a couple floors, and so like a close range character could get in or hop in on a couple of those floors, and they'd be in, let's say 6 foot by 6 foot area in game, obviously, but like 6 foot by 6 foot area where Reaper and a male would just delete anyone in the area, something like that.
The problem is they kind of designed themselves into a corner where they almost can't do that. Like, you get 2 Hanzos and you just shut that. Like, you can't have the payload or the main road, so to speak, the main funneling point where you want people to run through, be very, very small. Because if they have then no way to avoid like a Hanzo ult or something, what are you going to do? Are you going to not allow Hanzo on that map? Or that just doesn't seem practical.
Okay. Some of the other stuff, obviously, you should go ahead and just read the post yourself. There's a lot of tiny details in there about spectator mode, and just like it really it really gives a window into Jeff's mentality, just like who he is as a developer and a little bit as a person. But we're going to move on to the next. This is personal vendetta that I brought up myself into the cast, because this is something that I believe we talked about a long time ago. At the beginning, I would say March, about, is shit talking versus harassment and being a pansy. And I apologize if I'm being harsh. I don't really apologize, but if it makes you feel better. But to get to the point, there was a post made on the subreddit called GG Easy Can We Not? Basically saying that either this guy made the post in a fuel after he lost and the entire team said GG Easy, or I don't know, maybe it really just upset him deep down. But I'll be honest, I'm the person who says GG Easy after I lose, after I win a close game, after I win, when I've even said, are we in bots? Just things that I find funny, shit talking. I'm not going to call you racist names. I'm not going to call you, your mother this, something like that. That's crossing a line. But I like the shit talk. I think that it brings, it pumps me up. It makes me feel like a badass, while it also gives you a reason to next game kick my ass, bring it back at me. It's just like a playful banter thing. And I don't get why people are kind of being soft about this.
I agree with those points completely. Shit talking is pretty old for gaming. I mean, it's basically part of it.
Competitions in general.
Yeah, I mean, like soccer. If you were a kid and you played like a sport, there was shit talk.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, there's a big distinction, and it's easy to see between nasty and, I'm trying to razz you. First of all, like, razzing to me is healthy because it gets more emotion in the game, and it gets you more invested in beating someone or another team. If they're talking shit, I really want to beat them. It really gets me in the game. But that said, it's easy to tell if someone's trying to be nasty or if they're just being, razzy. I don't know. Maybe people don't understand the distinction. Maybe we should describe what that distinction is, maybe?
Yeah. Like, for instance, the best example for this, Trips already brought up, is where I don't get this at all. Like, if a game was very close and someone says GG Easy, how could you ever take this seriously? Obviously, this person knows that if you have been playing overtime for 2.5 minutes and one team then wins, it probably wasn't an easy game, boys.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
It was very much the opposite of an easy game. It's obviously poking fun at it, and nobody's being really serious about it. And, like, okay, that if it was a blowout game and you say GG Easy, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I can totally understand it in that situation. But In any other case, like context matters in these things a lot. But you will see like often like it's like a trait you often find in very dumb people that they don't get sarcasm at all. Like they can't detect it. Yeah. And I think that's basically the problem we're having, right? So that people don't, either they are so butthurt about their losses, or they simply don't get the tone. And it's like if someone says, well, sarcasm doesn't really carry over in written language. Yes, it does. It's based on context. It really does. Yeah. Right. So I don't know.
It's the same thing like when you're playing CS and it's like 5 to 10, and it's like close half, man. Like it's a joke. Get the fuck over it. I'm sorry, but you can go ahead, but it just, I don't know.
In that context, the person is actually giving you a compliment in the context of it's a close game. They say GG easy. They're actually saying, you're like, holy shit, that was fucking hard. I'm being sarcastic about how easy that was. They're paying you a compliment. But in the instance where it's a shutout and they say GG easy, that's shitty. I want to say, let's come up with some better shit talk than GG easy. I mean, Jesus, that's pretty weak, guys. Come on.
It is. Like, you could do so much worse, but at the same time, I'm starting to use it more because I know it salts the other team. Like, they get so mad, and it's ridiculous. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm sorry, but I'm going to get under your skin, and I expect you to do the same. I've had people, shit talk me and report me and like, blah, blah, you're trash, blah, blah. As long as you're not insulting me as a person or harassing me, something like that, it's probably going to piss me off. But at the end of the day, I'm going to get over it. Like it's just fun and games. It's just a competition.
I guess so far we covered where it's easy to tell if it's sarcasm and if it's not easy, and if it's like not sarcasm. There's some instances where it can be kind of vague. For instance, let's say a McCree player flashbangs you and then fans you down and says like owned, like yeah. He could be really saying, like I fucking owned you, or he could be saying like I hit 2 buttons to kill you, LOL. He might be being sarcastic in that way. In instances like this, it's best just to assume the person's being sarcastic. I mean, that's the population of video games is inherently sarcastic. I mean, it's like 85% probably going to be someone's just being sarcastic instead of being a jerk. People only become jerks typically when they're losing, in my opinion. If they're owning and they're being a jerk, that's pretty rare, I'd say.
It's also just like, honestly, it's kind of adrenaline, like, holy shit, did you just see what I did? That's so cool. They're not, I don't know, they're not like trying to rub it in your face. It's just like emotions.
Yeah.
Because I actually played on Nepal the other day, and I think I was playing a Farah, but I don't know. It was just me and this other guy dueling, and he just goes, holy shit. And I go, 2 HP. And he goes, I know. And then I said, calculated. That was a banter between 2 people on opposing teams. I won, and I said calculated, but he knew it was just a joke. We're just going back and forth. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just a game, man.
Yep.
And even if he gets a little peeved, but then he comes back at me and he's going directly for me and trying to take me down, and I'm trying to show off again and impress. It's just, I don't know. The only thing, even if it's not sarcasm, even if I'm definitely saying like I just, I wrecked you, deal with it. As long as you're not, spouting racial slurs, as long as you're not, I actually did have a game the other day where some guy was like furiously choking down his microphone, yelling to get on the point. Just immediately left the game. Reported the guy, blocked him, immediately left the game. I don't put up with that at all. That's over the top, in my opinion. That is ridiculous. I understand emotions. I understand things like that. But that's like the League of Legends mentality of just, sitting there typing out a novel about how this person should get cancer and they're a piece of crap and all. It's like, dude, there's another person on the other side of the keyboard that you have to remember that. Yes, they might be bad. Call them bad. Yes, they might be, not paying attention or AFK, stuff like that. I've had friends that I play with. I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? You're sitting in spawn. We're losing the game right now. But you don't have to scream and yell. And
that's actually a also very clear distinction. Like, there was a guy in my team, and I was playing McCree, and he was simply mad with me for playing McCree because obviously that's try-harding or something. And then, I don't know, like this type of person. And then I obviously talked back because whatever. Like, I thought it was all fun and games. Then it apparently was about my mother along the line. And then the thing is, that's the real distinction, right? If someone shit talks me, especially on my team, I don't give a shit. Like, I won't even report them for that. I don't care. I care if the fucker stands in spawn and just types away and is not contributing to the game. That's the banal offense for me. Not trying to win the game in a situation where that's obviously the goal everyone's striving for, and you're screwing 11 other people over out of a competitive game, basically. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing where I immediately hit the report button. AFKs, report. Doing some stupid stuff, typing away, report. Being a May, blocking your spawn, report. Right? That's the real griefing. I don't care.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a block button. If you were really this distressed by what another person is saying, there is the mute button. It's all you need. And there's, like, you can mute sound, you can mute chat. It's all good. Then after the game, if you're really this distressed by him, you just rate him down. You probably won't get him in the game again. That's completely fine. But if a fucker is destroying the chances of me winning the game, then that gets me furious.
I think we're all, I don't know if we need to stress it too much, but I think we're all on the same page here, is that shit talking is inherently good for competition because it fuels emotions. As long as you're not griefing or like emotionally harassing somebody, it's okay. I mean, okay.
Dude, it's just one last point. They're acting like this is such an abnormal and gamerish thing to do, and it's just thing that creeps behind the monitor. Dude, I played soccer from like, I think 9 to 20 years old in a club, and every single game, like, after a while, if someone pissed me off, we just shit talked at each other constantly, right? Like, you see professional soccer players talking at each other's shirts constantly, then just provoking the other guy. That's part of the game, and it's not something just gamers do. That's competition, right? That's just in the competitive spirit. It's sort of goes hand in hand.
There's a reason why it's called shit talk. It's because it doesn't mean anything.
It's useless. I mean, I've shit talked friends playing, beer pong, darts, pool, anything. And then guess what? We're still friends after it, but I'm calling him, garbage and get better, stuff like, guess what? We shake hands, we're all good. We talk the next day. It's just, honestly, what I think it is toughen up a bit, guys. And don't make stupid posts that are fueled by emotion. We've actually had a topic on that, too.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, we're moving on. So, Jeff Goodman, principal designer, actually posted on the Battle.net forums again. And it was a post that somebody made. I don't know who he was quoting. I apologize.
What's his name?
Jeff Goodman.
So, mental note, if you want to join Blizzard, rename to Jeff.
Apparently. Or I don't know if it's pronounced Geoff, but I'm pretty sure it's Jeff.
Okay, yeah, it's Jeff.
Geoff. Yeah. He is responding to a post that said, on a note, how do you feel about a large portion of Genji's power being contained in the animation canceling of right mouse button melee dash? Would this go against that same policy? I play Genji a lot and I can use this combo well, but it does seem that odd that you have to abuse the game mechanics to be on par with other heroes. He had to say, we have quite a few conversations about this exact thing. This is a good thing to bring up because it's a great example of where we are always fighting to make the game feel as good as possible. Against this feels kind of broken. Maybe it's macroable. We want quick melee to be responsive, so it's allowed to interrupt most anything, and Genji's dash is in a similar situation. So you end up with this kind of interrupting combo. To be honest, I'm not sure if we will do anything about it or not. Excuse me. But we have to talk about it quite a bit. As of now, we have no direct plans to change it, though. To me, what this brings up is the same thing in Melee, wave dashing, things like that. Or, there's a couple of other games that they have where you cancel something and you use another move. Or I know for like Roadhog, you can... Because of the way reloading works, you don't have to wait for the entire animation. You can start healing right away, stuff like that, or you can jump, shift with Bastion, those type of things, where to a normal person who is just getting in the game, it doesn't seem apparent, but when you play those characters a lot and you're always looking for ways to improve, you're pushing that note a little bit, and it's nice. It's nice to be like, oh, I played 10 hours on Genji. I know that you can animation cancel his right click with the melee and then dash immediately, and it's going to do all three in a damaging, and I don't think that they should take this out because it's not broken. It's just it falls into that more experienced play deal, but it is kind of it's a clever use of game mechanics is what we always used to say in WoW.
I guess it's a really, really tricky subject, and it's entirely based on context, on a per instance basis, because a lot of times emergent mechanics can add a lot to a game and make a game fantastic. I mean, gaming is historically filled with these types of games. Like the original Tribes wasn't meant to be like a big skiing game. It was a fucking bug that caused you to have zero to slide, basically, and then that became an amazing game because of it. But anyways, I guess you have to dial in on something at some point, and that something is most likely balance. That's the only thing you can really dial in on if it should exist or not, in my opinion. If it makes the character broken, or if it makes having to play the character that way to be effective, that might be a problem. I don't know. The crux of it is balance to me, if it should be addressed or not.
It kind of depends on what you consider effective. Because if I can play Genji in a pub game and do well without doing animation canceling, that's fine. But if I'm trying to compete at a pro level, I should have to know that I can animation cancel or something like that. And actually, I just remembered something that I should bring up because it's everywhere. It's not a secret anymore. Is the Hanzo bug?
Yes.
The wall fart bug. That seems broken to me. That does not seem clever use of game mechanics, or if you're good enough, you'll be able to do this. That doesn't seem like that should be a thing.
And again, if I had that initial reaction, like he's behaving in a way that's entirely not as he should be designed. He's just not doing what he's supposed to do. But if you look at it from a balance standpoint, it doesn't add too much to him. I mean,
he gets a Lucio wall ride.
Well, when does Lucio use a wall ride? I mean, in like hard matches. I mean, and it's like a shit wall ride at that. It's just like, I mean, he can get somewhere, I guess, where he shouldn't be able to get to as fast, maybe. I mean, that's all it kind of boils down to, in my opinion, is he can get somewhere where he usually can't.
This is where I think at least Blizzard, and I think I'm inclined to agree, kind of expands the reasons why something needs to be changed. Because you said only balance. I think Blizzard very much also says, does it look right? Okay, right? Does it visually look right? Because, and okay, from a balance perspective, for instance, we had a couple of bugs that were taken out, I think, in beta that were very much comparable to these situations. For instance, we had the Genji wall ride shift thing where you could just basically jump half the map or something. You would shift on a ledge and then go up. I think it might be still in the game in another iteration. I saw it in some video.
Yep.
I'm not 100% convinced if that was footage before or after the fix. Or we had the Reinhardt animation cancel, right?
Oh, where he
Yeah.
swang faster?
Yes, I don't think that was particularly overpowered. It made Reinhardt stronger. It didn't really, break the back and made him an absolute monster,
Two things
But
that I would bring up
Look
is
retarded.
how do you feel about, did you see the double kick Zenyatta, where Zenyatta can melee, shoot, double melee? And how do you feel about the kangaroo fuck you? Because that's considered not technically how it should work.
Yeah.
It's meant to get to a ledge, but if you press jump at the right time, it sends you flying over the ledge.
Well, I think, would you program into the game that space does anything if it was just meant to get onto ledges? Or did they sort of intend to have this effect? Because if you press spacebar, it obviously reacts differently. Or was that to circumvent some ledges where you couldn't just hook up and then you had to press shift to get on them? I don't know. Like, that could be the case. But at the same time, I still think they actually intended for that to happen. Not 100% sure, but
Yeah, it's on the fence.
yeah. But yeah,
I guess where do you draw the line? Like, what out of those? So Zenyatta double kick, Widowmaker jumping, or like Widowmaker slingshot, Hanzo wall ride, Genji animation cancel. Did any of those seem, or I guess, and the Reinhardt animation cancel? Did any of those seem like that should totally be fixed? Like, that's obvious to you that it should be fixed?
Well, I guess if we use Yiska's idea or Blizzard's idea that Yiska brought up of it doesn't look right, like a double kick probably isn't going to look right, or a sped up melee probably isn't going to look right. A Widowmaker flying off a wall because of a grappling hook, maybe that looks all right.
Yeah.
Maybe it factors in there if it matters or not.
I personally think Zenyatta, I mean, the Reinhardt bug is already fixed, I think. Zenyatta double kick is cheating, in my opinion. You should, if there's supposed to be I click this button and there's a cooldown, there should be a cooldown. You should not be able to do, what is, melee's 30, 40 damage, something like that, right?
I think it's
30.
30? Yeah, you shouldn't be able to do 60 damage. That's, ridiculous, especially as a support. Widowmaker, I just brought that up. I have no problem with that. The Genji animation cancel, I don't think you're doing any technically more damage. I think you're just saving like a couple frames at most. And the Hanzo, I know it's just like a mobile, it's like an increase in mobility, but what can you actually do with it? I don't know if you can get to any extreme places with it.
I guess.
Can you flank with it? Like, can you go around the back of a map or something like that?
Looks like you
probably
could.
yes.
Yeah. But who's going to
Because
really
Lucio
do that?
can do it, yeah. I don't see it being that. Like, theoretically, this also should be possible with Genji, right? Because the centric works for Lucio, so I assume it would. And I don't know. I don't think it's too big of a problem. All it does is, the only thing where I really think that it might be an issue is if you're traveling up vertically, but just vertically, not like, because then you're in retreat mode anyway, and it's like, okay, really extending the ability to get up onto something so much seems like, I mean, a map designer like, sometimes you have these ledges where you just barely can't get up as Hanzo. And I think that those are exactly the points where the map designer said, I think a Hanzo shouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah.
And then obviously with the knowledge we have now, we kind of need to reevaluate, should a Hanzo be able to get up there? Is it creating like a super imbalanced scenario? Most likely not. And I don't know, like, I predict it will be fixed eventually, because we know what a pile Blizzard currently is working on, and it's most likely a tech problem that isn't trivial to fix. But if it's supposed to be fixed, I don't even see it being used that much, to be honest.
But I guess that just like the overall arcing question that needs to be answered is, how do you feel about like breaking in-game mechanics to increase a skill ceiling of heroes? Should they be there?
I think as well, it's hard to say. I guess as a rule, sure. Anything that raises the skill ceiling of the game makes me happy and makes it more exciting to watch, in my opinion. But it depends on the thing, you know. Is it something that's fun to watch? Is it something that is like stupidly broken? Is it something that is fun to play even? Like, do I want to, like, if I want to play Smash and be competitive, do I want to like really invest a lot of time into getting good at wave dashing? I don't know. Maybe it's not fun. Maybe it is fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess these are other factors that are completely up to the individual, beyond balance.
Okay. The last topic on our repertoire for today is actually something that came in very late. There was a tweet by Eric Lonnquist stating that Overwatch appears to have overtaken League of Legends in Korea PC bang shares, the first major shift in 4 years. So there is a post, and it's all in Korean, but it says FPS 29.21%, and the RTS right below it, and it says Riot, because Riot apparently is its own branding. They have no Korean letters for Riot, but it's 28.8%. So it's beating it roughly by 41% of shares, whatever the hell that means. Basically, what it has boiled down to was Force Gaming, if you know who that is, also made a video about it in the very beginning, talking about that. You know, he's been listening to either his friends or posts on Reddit or posts on the forums, people in game talking about making this, you know, big shift, because it's not that League is dead, but it's just that people are having problems with the patching. League is old. It's been around since 2010, so it's about 6 years old now. And while Overwatch is a FPS, it does have MOBA-like qualities to it. It has 21 unique characters. Every single character feels different. You can't say that. Honestly, you can't. You cannot say that two characters feel exactly alike. And it's just people are looking for something new. People are kind of getting tired of the same old. And it's a nice transition. It's by a big publisher. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Whether or not people like to admit it, you know, Overwatch, is over 10 million now?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's console sales obviously in there too.
Yeah. Yep.
I
guess. How do you guys feel about that? Do you guys think that's true? Do you think there's a shift in the gaming community? Do you think it's like about that time that it should shift anyways?
I guess I could talk about a few different things that occur to me. One, and this may or may not apply, is success breeds success and marketing breeds marketing. So it might be that to bring down League of Legends, you needed a big ass budget anyways, and it might be like the marketing budget of Blizzard as a esport, marketing it as an esport, I should say. You know, not like like an EA title marketing. Marketing it that way just kind of brought it into the larger consciousness and snowballed from there. Maybe it's the marketing that did it. The gamer in me says it's the game that did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a question I'm still got rolling around in my head.
One of the big things that he did bring up, Forrest brought up in the video, was that he thinks that, you know, when WoW was the Titan, you know, it's still obviously up there, but when it was 12, 13 million players strong, people tried to create the next WoW. They tried to create the MMO that would kill WoW. People didn't want an MMO. People wanted a MOBA. So, you know, not that people directly went to League from WoW, but when WoW was on the decline, League came out, and League sucked up all of, the gamers. And then when League has started to be on the decline, now it's an FPS. And it's not that people want, another MOBA to kill League, because obviously, I mean, Here's the Storm didn't kill it, but it's just they don't want another MOBA. They want the next game. They want the next genre to be popular. So here comes Overwatch FPS with that little sprinkling of MOBA that everyone's used to.
It makes sense. If I have a game I like in a certain genre, I'm less likely to try the same thing elsewhere. For example, like Civilization is my turn-based strategy game, and I don't really.
I've always wanted to play that game,
and I don't really want to play anything else because Civ satisfies all that I would want in a turn-based strategy game, except for the space side. There's some space ones I play too, but I could see the same thinking applying to a MOBA. Why would I want to play another MOBA that's basically the same thing, but just slightly different?
Yeah.
I don't know. I love this game. I'm playing it right now. What the fuck? Why am I going to go play something else that's the same thing?
Yeah. There's a couple of questions that came up for me when I read this announcement, because there's this theory, and I think there's a lot of merit to it, is if Korea culturally claws into a game, and which is basically like the PC Bang representation, the numbers there are obviously a symptom of that, or maybe the best telling stat, is then they will automatically dominate said esport. Now, there is a couple of things that, like a couple of other theories, like Asians can't aim, for instance. Like we haven't, like the Western esports that were played.
Don't they play guns?
Well, okay, but in the esports we Westerners compete in, there are only ever like one or two teams from the Asian region that could sort of hang with the top 10, let's say, but never really did they dominate these FPS titles. So there's these two theories colliding. Like, okay, Sweden, for instance, Swedish players are gods at FPS, right? And they will dominate, and we kind of see it in Overwatch too, in a sense, right? Most of the European top teams have at least one Swede on them. Most have more. And then there's just, okay, what's the stronger force, so to speak? Is it Korea clawing into the game? And then the question is, can they claw into the game? Because if you think about how, for instance, let's think of the competitive setting, the ranked queue in League. You don't need to chat there. You don't need to communicate via voice to coordinate too much. You can write most of the stuff.
Yeah.
The same is true for StarCraft. Obviously, you don't need to communicate with anyone because it's a solo game. Those are typically the two games Korea dominated in. Now, personally, I don't know enough about the PC Bang culture, but I would think it would be an obstacle to overcome socially if you had to constantly talk to your team in order to be competitive. If you were playing in these PC Banks and someone next to you was playing and everyone was talking, is that even possible? Would the culture, kind of allow that to happen, or would everyone be sitting there and not communicating, which would obviously hamper their ability to improve and compete on because obviously numbers breed talent, right? So those are some big question marks we have with the Korean numbers. Obviously, also if these, sustain over the launch period, if the numbers stay up there, if Overwatch can compete with League for a longer period of time, then if the claw of the European, the Korean culture sticks into Overwatch and tries to compete, can they aim? And what's the social component, right? There's all interesting questions. I'm really looking forward to actually to see how it works out.
I wonder if there's a hardware component to it. Like for me, FPS games, I have my own equipment that helps me play better. I have the mouse I picked out that suits me and the keyboard. If you're in like a PC Bang, I wonder if that hampers that, or what sort of effect that has on a player as far as like investment in getting better in the game. If I had a really bad mouse and like it just jittered everywhere, I'm not going to try very hard at aiming. Not saying that PC bangs have bad mice, but just as an
Absolutely,
example. Yeah.
absolutely. You'd constantly see top FPS talent joining in another team, having to use other brands of mice, and then struggling for months, sometimes not getting anywhere to their form because they just can't perform on the hardware they're forced to use. That's certainly another big question mark. Also, are the PC Bang computers strong enough? Are they constantly running I don't know, I would say at least 200 FPS to be, top-notch competitive, right? So these are all big question marks if that can be overcome. Okay, the game itself, like with the short game times and everything, that's kind of nice for such a culture, right? Even though most of the time, like the average person, I think stays like 3 hours per session in a PC Bang, so it wouldn't matter too much in that sense, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe the Korean Overlords are coming, and we will have sick competition, and then teams will eventually get Korean, like the sickest Koreans over here, and then we'll cheer for them.
Yep. All right. That flew by. A lot of good topics to talk about. So we'll slow it down a bit. Play a nice slow song for all the couples out there. Do you guys have anything going on behind the scenes on your personal channels?
Just more Overwatch science videos, cranking out 1 or 2 a week. That's about it.
Are you gonna be the Overwatch doctor?
Yeah, maybe. Probably not.
Mythbusters of Overwatch.
It's more like learning, like really like weird edge cases for mechanics. Like just fun stuff. Like that's probably not going to come up a lot in a match, but it's pretty cool to learn about. That gets me excited about games.
Yeah, for anyone who has not, Vulture puts out pretty quality content. A lot of the subreddits have been appreciative. I think more so the competitive stuff, but yeah, go ahead and check him out. Have you put one out recently, or are they kind of like a week or two old now?
I put one out today about Zeri
you did?
Shield. Yeah.
Okay. Anything going on for you, Yiska? Anything Overwatch related, personal related?
I started kind of like a practice regimen where I try to analyze, sort of, just talk myself through my own games, and then maybe I will develop that into a format. I'm not too sure if that's also what the format would be if I just talk and then stop the video and talk, or if I had to cut it back and forth, which I'm honestly not that interested in. I don't know. I don't know. And then the articles are coming nicely along, which I'm writing like 3 at a time again. It's awful. And then, but one thing, like from Watch's video when we did the Junkrat one, I actually think that helped me a lot playing Junkrats. Like, or especially the thing we found out about the weapon model and how you use them. That works so well. Like just placing something on the right of if you cut the corner, it happens so often that you catch someone in pub games that way. So. Yeah, pretty sick.
You can almost cover a whole doorway, too. If you just kind of stick just a tiny bit of it out from the doorway, the whole doorway's covered, too. So that's, yeah.
And it feels like, what are these spiders called that have, like, that burrow into the ground, and then when something comes out...
A trapdoor spider?
Trapdoor spiders, yeah. And it's almost like Junkrat works. You hear the trap snap, and it's like, oh, a fat roadhog. It's super fun. I don't know.
All right. Personally, I just put out a 6-stack video for Zarya. I'm actually loving Zarya. Like, I'm really getting into playing her because no one likes to play tanks, apparently. So I've been playing Zarya a bit, making the Hanzos feel real good when they get that ultimate after I set it up. But, yeah, if you want to take a look at how, not that we're even a team. It was just a random, group of 6 people, but we're all communicating, all trying instead of playing like a pub match, which honestly I can't stand playing pubs unless I just let loose and just don't care, but I have trouble doing that. I put that on my channel. Other than that, hopefully we get some juicy news for... I'm actually looking to see... Okay, so next week... We'll have a show next week. 2 weeks... I actually haven't told you guys this. I'm going up north for 4th of July. So, unless Volcha and Yeska want to have a one-on-one, next week will be the last before a break for the 4th of July for us Americans who like to celebrate by blowing shit up. Other than that, I think we're good for this week. So
we could have a therapy session for Vulture after being, violated by Rafa's team.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ. We've actually been practicing quite a bit. We got a lot better, did some more scrims, and we're decent now. I'm pretty sure that Rafa's team would have still stopped us anyways, but maybe we would have touched the point at this point.
No. Just went 6 tracer and just all... We touched it, so we did a little bit better.
Touched the butt,
before we get into post-show ramblings and kind of getting off the topic, I'm going to close it out. So thank you so much for joining us for another week of Watchpoint, guys. If you did like the video, make sure you hit that thumbs up on YouTube and subscribe for more. If you didn't like us, let us know in the comments. If you have anything to say on any of the topics that we talked about, let us know in the comments. We love seeing viewer feedback, stuff like that. We love interacting with you guys, and we hope we will see you next week. Have a good night.